Right now, I feel like I see two probably counterintuitive tendencies in Google for us bloggers. So a lot of bigger sites, some of my own included, are losing a bit of traffic right now, or maybe we're just seeing a plateau where we would normally see growth because we're adding new content. So there's a lot of chit chat about that, and I want to talk about that and address some of what I think is going on with Google in this video here. And I also want to talk about another tendency where I see smaller sites, newer sites grabbing some of that traffic. Because Google is getting much better at understanding what each article on a site is about at a much deeper level. So first, let's talk about new sites grabbing traffic from bigger sites, because I think that's one of the things that are happening when some of these huge sites also go downsize, have not seen the same growth that we normally would over this spring, especially with a lot of Google updates. So Google has definitely been pushing a lot of stuff, and we've seen bigger updates, smaller updates, just all over the place. So we had a couple of core updates and also a lot of unannounced updates that a lot of SEOs believe has been there and has done some impact on a lot of sites and a lot of publishers. So with Go Downsize, one of my bigger sites, and also a few of my other bigger sites, I've seen, like I said, a plateau over the spring. I haven't seen the growth that I normally would. And I'm pretty sure that it's because, or one of the reasons why this is happening is because some of that traffic is going to newer sites. So two things here. Of course, we have new sites being added all the time, more competition, you can say, more informational type articles, because today all the major courses are talking about adding informational, or we can call it educational content. So there's an emphasis on something that you cannot necessarily monetize with affiliate links, but it's just there to answer people's questions around the topic. So that means more content out there, and that also means that some of these sites are grabbing some of that traffic that a bigger site would otherwise get. So let's say, for example, on Go Downsize, I talk a lot about tiny houses and apartments, and one article I have sitting there is about how to heat a tiny house. So a couple of years ago, that would also rank for something like, how much does it cost to heat a tiny house? Or how much this or that does it take to heat a tiny house? Just a lot of related searches around heating a tiny house. So because my site is very authoritative, it's a huge site, it's been around for a long time, I have more than 100 articles around this, Google sees this site as a huge authority. Also because I have links from big, huge sites like Business Insider and a lot of things. You can go to the site and see where it's getting mentioned. So because of that, because it's such a huge site and it's been around for a long time, it's easy for me to rank for a pretty big topic like heating a tiny house. And also an article like that would usually grab a lot of related searches, like I just said. But today, another site might come along and write an article about how much does it cost to heat a tiny house, or just come at heating for a tiny house from another angle. So that means, of course, more articles, but it also means that just a couple of years ago, I feel like my site would still grab that traffic, even though smaller sites or newer sites would have more specific articles. But I feel like all that is slightly changing right now because Google is getting so good at understanding what each article is about. So you can write an article about something very specific, and Google will just decipher that article much better. I won't use the word understand because it's still just algorithms, right? They're still just putting two and two together from a lot of data points, but still they are able to match those articles to a better data set, to a better, you can say more relevant searches in Google. So because they're getting better at understanding what an article is about on the deeper level, some of these articles sitting on newer and smaller sites will today be able to steal some of that traffic from one of my bigger, meatier articles around heating a tiny house. I hope that makes sense. So this is a pretty good opportunity for new and small sites, and that's also what I've been talking about here on this channel here for a while, about finding these underserved topics. They can be pretty specific stuff around something that another site would have written about, but since you are more on point for this part of the question, for example, the cost of heating a tiny house, you'll be able to steal that traffic. I have been doing SEO full time for around 14 years now, and I will say the biggest advancement I have ever seen in SEO is this understanding of what the article is about. Google is getting so much better at that. A decade ago, Google would have absolutely no clue about what an article was about, and the guy with the most keywords in there would win every time in Google, and it was more like this nerdy, geeky game where you would try to trick Google all the time. But today we can really rank just by producing the best content. And like I've shown you a couple of times here on the channel, you can rank an article in Google right now with keywords that are not even on the page. So we don't need to obsess over keywords because Google can really decipher on a deeper level what each article is about. And we also see this advancement in Google in the e-commerce sector. So I've worked with a lot of huge e-commerce sites. That's what I did for a decade as a professional SEO dude. And some of these sites are losing traffic this year and last year without losing revenue. So this is super exciting because as they're losing some traffic but still have the same revenue, that means that Google is just picking out some of that traffic from people who are not really looking for products anyway, and maybe sending that to our sites instead with more informational type articles. And you see here how Google is getting better because they're able to send the right traffic to an e-commerce store, people actually looking to buy something because the revenue is intact but they see less traffic. So that means that some of that irrelevant traffic is getting sorted out and going to us, you and I, writing about people's questions about all these products. So it's just another indicator that Google is getting better at this. So another reason why bigger sites such as Go Downsize is seeing less traffic, I believe it's because, like I said, more and more sites are writing informational type content. So all the bigger courses out there, all the major blogging courses say that you should write informational content that's not best X for Y, but more like answering people's questions. So it's just because it's a huge opportunity right now to monetize your site with display ads. And since that is coming into all the major courses, everybody's talking about informational content. That also means that there are just more articles out there to compete with the bigger sites. And I will also say that I absolutely believe that Google is also doing whatever they can to keep as many people on the search result page without clicking over to anything. So they're trying to do this with more clever snippets at the top and the knowledge graph and carousels and stuff. And they're really just testing a bunch of stuff to see if they can show something up there at the top of the search result page that will keep people satisfied so they don't have to click to an article. Because if you stay in Google, you will be more likely to click on some of the Google ads. So I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. And I'm definitely not the only one seeing this. We've seen Google send less traffic with each and every major core update over the last 2 years. But it's definitely not to a point where I feel like it's any threat to what we are doing here with like the business model. I mean, even if Google were to cut that traffic in half that they send, which would I think would absolutely not happen, I still feel like we have a very, very strong business model here. Check out one of these videos where I showed you how I created a site in less than 2 years that make 15 grand per month. And I haven't even probably monetized that site yet with affiliate links. So I would say we have a very, very strong business case here still. I also want to address a pretty common misconception that I see from the comments here on YouTube and also from my community around my course. And that's around these underserved topics that I talk about all the time when we're finding a topic that nobody wrote an article about. And that's a great way to rank a new site. A lot of people think that an underserved topic by definition is a small topic. And it makes sense when you think about it that all the bigger topics would be taken by the big sites. So there are only these teeny tiny nuggets left for us to write on with a new site. And that's just not the case. It's not in any way part of the reason why you can rank. The reason why you rank so well is because it hasn't been written before. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how many searches this topic is getting per month. I see some SEO theories out there being thrown around on forums and Reddit and such about that you can only rank a new site for small topics. And that's just wrong. It's just not the case. I have shown that so many times with my sites and seen it over and over again, how I can easily rank for pretty meaty topics as long as they are underserved. And of course, this is true if you are in a competitive niche. A lot of the bigger topics, maybe all of them almost, will be taken by another site because there's just so many articles out there and so many sites targeting that niche. But if you're not in a competitive niche, and if you found a niche like I teach you to do that's not oversaturated, where you can still find some of these more meatier topics with a lot of search volume, you can definitely go for them. Some of these articles that my team writes for some of my new sites sometimes get a lot of traffic. So check out this video here, there's also a link in the description where I show you the exact traffic numbers for the first 20 articles for 3 of my newer sites. Some of these articles will get more than 2,000 page views per month. So I'm just telling you this to give you some confidence in the method here and to let you know that you don't have to go for small topics with the new site. I hope all this was helpful, and let me know what you think about this dark mode thing here. If you think I should film more at night, I'll definitely experiment more with it if you guys tell me in the comments that you like this setup for a change. And give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video.